Here's how I know a marriage won't last, even though the relationship looks perfect on paper. One of the things that used to blow my mind is the fact that a marriage can start out like this and still have a pretty significant chance of ending like this. That was until I got divorced myself, and as a person who divorced for irreconcilable differences, I can tell you exactly how that happens. These are the divorces that people never saw coming, because if you know what to look for, it's pretty easy to spot a future cheater or a future abuser. But when it comes to true irreconcilable differences, the red flags are much more subtle, and they take a lot more pressure in order to rise to the surface. Pressure that is simply never going to happen as long as you have what the men call new booty to depend on in order to mask incompatibility. As a divorced woman, I can say one of my biggest mistakes was investing years of my life into a relationship before properly stress testing it. The ultimate stress test for a relationship is requiring abstinence before marriage, and I talk about that more in my other video. But in this video, we'll be covering 3 of the biggest vulnerabilities your relationship will have if you decide to not make abstinence until marriage your standard. And this isn't going to be a basic video where I state the obvious by saying things like you might end up with a lustful man. The things that I'll be listing in this video are issues that you most likely never even thought of, because I know that these are things that never even crossed my mind during my first marriage. The first vulnerability comes from either one or both of you self-medicating unhealed childhood wounds with a relationship. This is so much more common than people realize, and especially with men, because unlike women, they don't have that outlet to express themselves. So instead, they keep a lot of that hurt bottled up inside. I said relationship, but the truth is they're actually using the relations as a way to numb themselves. But how can you know where the pain is coming from if you're using relations as a way to numb yourself? And how could you possibly fix the problem if you don't even know where the pain is coming from? The reason why abstinence until marriage fixes this problem is because it will either cause these dormant issues to quickly rise to the surface so that they can be addressed before you get married, or it'll just run off the men who are too weak to face that pain. And if he's too weak to face himself and to heal himself, he's definitely too weak to make a marriage work until death do you part. Even using myself as an example, I never would have realized that I was actually codependent if I never decided to abstain until marriage. I spent my entire adult life in 2 unhealthy long-term relationships because I didn't know how to be alone, and I never really had to be because I was willing to do married activities outside of marriage. But once I got serious about making abstinence my standard, I had to learn how to be alone. And for the first time in my life, I learned how to self-validate instead of relying on external validation to keep me emotionally regulated. So I'm no longer in a place in my life where I need a man emotionally, which now gives me the power to leave any relationship that is either not healthy or just overall not a net positive to my life. Compare that to me wasting 4 years of my life in my first relationship and 7 years of my life in my second relationship. Like I said earlier, you can't fix an issue if you are currently numbing it. And the quickest and most thorough way to heal in this life is by removing every crutch that you are dependent on in order to feel comfortable in your dysfunction. Abstinence is a great way to do that, but I have to be honest and admit that after 4 years of doing this, it's not exactly easy to begin. So if you do need help or you want to talk to me or get my advice on starting your abstinence journey, you can check the link in the description below. The next vulnerability is ending up with a man who doesn't actually love you and doesn't see you as his future, but you do serve some type of benefit to him. And because of that, he's not against passing the time with you. The good thing about men who stick around to use you is that they are going to see themselves out as soon as they consider you to be useless. Because most men don't need women for physical survival, you're most likely going to be used for what you can do for him in the bedroom, and a very close second is the image that you help him to portray to society. We just recently heard Zayn admit in an interview that he was never truly in love with Gigi. Despite the fact that she's a beautiful, successful, world-renowned model who also sacrificed her body to push out one of his kids, he still woke up one day and told her he can't do this anymore because they weren't a good fit. The issue is there's like a 99% chance that he already knew that before it got to the point where she was so deeply invested into their relationship. These are the men who stick around out of convenience, and the worst thing you can do is give this man years of your life, or even more importantly, a child. child, because as soon as a more convenient option comes along, he is going to forget that you exist. That's why you have to be inconvenient in a way that really challenges a man, because a lot of people say being inconvenient is like demanding princess treatment or the sprinkle lifestyle, but money is really nothing to a man who has an abundance of it. That's like the equivalent of demanding a man with no job to spend a significant amount of time with you. He doesn't mind spending time with you if it gives him what he wants because he has an abundance of that. The only way to truly know if a man actually values you and is worth the huge investment that you will inevitably pour into him is if it costs him something. It's really hard for women to understand just how important intercourse is for men, but you can easily put this into perspective by just comparing the amount of women who get in trouble for violating men versus the other way around. The bad men want it so bad that they're willing to take it, but for the so-called good men, they're willing to sell you a dream and fake an entire relationship just to keep you around until they either get tired of you or find somebody that they consider to be better. And this kind of plays into the final vulnerability, and it's the fact that men are willing to put up with way more than you realize as long as he's getting consistent intercourse from somebody attractive in exchange. I was honestly shocked by just how much a man is willing to tolerate as long as he gets to bang someone who looks like his fantasy. Now, on the surface, this seems like everything a woman would want, but in reality, when they place so much value on having an aesthetically pleasing partner, they don't require you to be that good of a person, and it's honestly human nature to rise to the standards that are required of us. So guess what that meant? I was a terrible partner to the two men I was with previously, but they still enabled my narcissistic, codependent, disrespectful behaviors. You don't need me to tell you that a relationship like that has no chance of lasting forever. But the thing I love about abstinence is the fact that I am forced to grow and be the best version of myself in order for a man to agree to something like that. That not only makes me be a better partner, but it also prepares me to be a better mother one day, a better friend, a better family member, and just overall a better person. And before you feel bad for my ex-husband and my ex-boyfriend, they were definitely not innocent angels either, but that's because water seeks its own level. So the fact that I'm becoming a better person means that I will be attracting a better person into my life. Let me know if you need me to make another video to break down any of these concepts further, and if you need help for a specific situation, you can book a call with me. The link is in the description.